Hi there and welcome to Good Enough Scenery. It's the final part of how I made this grassy modular board. The resin pour for the river. Really like how this river turned out. Got lots of lovely little details in there. And the guy who bought the board from me is absolutely delighted. So how did we do it? Well, we started with where we finished in the last part, which is having the riverbeds actually done. So they look like that. If you haven't watched that yet, then please do so. Now, if we're going to do a resin pour, we need to dam up the end. So I do this with acetate sheets and UV resin. So you can't really see it there, but I've got an acetate sheet and I'm cutting a 2 centimeter high strip. And I'm going to cut one of those for each of the tiles, so I think there were 7 of them. And then once I've done that, I'm going to draw a line halfway up, so 1 centimeter up, seeming to be having trouble just using a ruler here, but I want to get this absolutely dead parallel with the bottom of it. So just drawing a line with a Sharpie and then putting a little mark on it to show which side is the upside and which is the downside, and then cutting this in half. So that we've got one little bit of acetate with a mark on it for each end. So I did this with all 7 tiles. And then it's a case of sticking those to the ends of the tiles, but not permanently. Now I have played with lots of different ways of making dams. Now I've found that the very best way is with acetate sheets and UV resin. So this is going to require a small amount of investment. A little bottle of that will cost you £4 or £5, and I've got you need a black light torch or UV torch, which I think cost me about £5, something like that. Product link in the description of the ones that I bought. And then it's just a case of putting some resin down where you want it to be and then holding the black light over it to set it. This stuff sets ridiculously quickly when you've got the black light on it. So putting it where you want it to go and then just squidging the bit of acetate down on top of it. Now this won't set like that. It will set very, very slowly without any input from anywhere. So you've got some time to work with it, which is quite good. So I'm just making sure that's nice and level with the bottom of the board there, so that that mark is the same height on all the boards. And then shining the UV light. I mean, that will be setting basically instantaneously as soon as that UV light hits it. Now you can, and because I've been playing with boards since May, you can just do the inside and then cover the outside of it with hot glue to hold it in place. So that UV resin is you can do it with it just on the inside, but I did both on this, and this pour went pretty well, to be honest. No real disasters with it. One tiny leak, which was I'd fixed before I had a chance to even think about filming it. But yeah, just want to make sure that these are fairly secure. Obviously, you would be able to pull them off, but don't do that. Then you need to work out how much resin you've got. So I'm doing roughly a 1 centimeter deep pour. So I'm doing rough calculations in my head, and it turns out you need about 300 milliliters for each one. Now, using resin is a messy process, so I would recommend that you wear gloves, and also it will wreck any container that you put it in, so don't use a container that you like. So I'm going to be mixing this in a container of, I think it was isopropyl alcohol that had run out. Now, rather than measuring it in a jug, what I do is I estimate how much I want to make, and then I will put a mark on the bottle. I put a matching mark on the other one, and I pour it in until I've got an equal amount. So you can see that there's roughly an equal amount in there, but the marks on the bottle on the right hand side. Then you want to colour your resin. So the mistake I've made before is by putting way too much colour in. You hardly need any, so I'm putting in 1 drop at a time. So I'm starting with some green. So I wanted this to be a bluey green because that's what my customer had told me that he wanted, and then just very slowly, literally drop by drop, adding in some more colour. So I started with the green. Then I added some blue. Now blue is very powerful as a colour, so it can take over quite quickly. So I've added a little bit more green in, and follow the instructions as to how you stir it. It says about doing small circles initially and etc. and avoiding bubbles. I don't mind if there's bubbles in mine because it's water after all, but I never seem to have bubbles anyway. Now once I'd mixed it all up, I put a mark on the side of the tub so I knew exactly how much I had mixed up, and I'd been counting how many drops of paint I put in so the future ones I mixed up could be the same same color. And then from here, I very just carefully put a little bit of resin in each one. I didn't want to go all out and tip it all into one, so just slowly building up the amounts across, I think maybe 3 or 4 batches, I think it was in the end. Now, I'd really strongly recommend having some lolly sticks on hand for stirring. And as soon as you finish tipping, just being able to just scoop the resin up like that and then just wipe it off is invaluable, because if you allow it to drip everywhere, it's just really, really sticky because it's resin at the end of the day. So yeah, I slowly built up the amounts until it was nice and level with the mark that I put on the acetate, so that we had the same depth, or very roughly the same depth, on every single tile, so they can match up nicely. And it's not the end of the world if they're slightly mismatched, but it's good if they are pretty close. Yeah, like I said, this pour went really well. No major disasters. Really liked how the color looked. You'll see that better when you see them close up in a minute. And then we got adding the detail to it. So this is now set, and I'm using some Vallejo diorama water texture. So you start off by covering your tile completely in this stuff. This stuff will dry clear. It's a bit like PVA glue, but not quite. Now once it has been covered, I use an old brush and just stipple it like you're seeing me do here, and think about how the water might be flowing through the tile. So I kind of stipple it and move the brush in one direction. It's not something I think about too much. The one thing I try to avoid is it looking like I've stippled a brush up it. So I try to break that up with some different angles of the brush and things like that. But ultimately, it's not that hard to do, and it tends to look good no matter how you do it. Then removing the dams, and this can be kind of really, really simple. It should just kind of come off if you've done it, and ends up looking nice and shiny at the end when you look at that. And then just kind of neaten up the ends and remove any kind of bits of glue and any bits of flock from the end. So I wanted to show you one that was a little bit more difficult. So peeled it off, that went fine, and then you can see that there's some resin there which you can just peel off. Sometimes it'll be more adhered to the epoxy resin that's been poured in, and you can just cut it with a knife. But ultimately, if you do it like that, do it with the UV resin, it tends to work pretty well. And that's the river tiles finished with all of the texture and all of the detail. And that is basically the entire board finished. And this is what it ended up looking like. Really, really pleased with how this board turned out. First time I've done offset rivers, and they're fantastic fun. Have played on this board a number of times since creating it, and the variety in it is fantastic. Such a fun board to play on, especially with a bit more modular scatter terrain down on top of it. Now, if you have enjoyed this, then I'd really appreciate you subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell so you can see future videos, and leaving any comments that you might have. Now, if you want your own board of these and you don't feel like you can make it yourself, then you can head to goodenoughscenery.com and you can simply get me to make one for you. So that is an option that is available to you. But whether you want to buy a board, or whether you like me making them, or whether you're going to make one yourself, really hope you have enjoyed this series on making a grassy modular board. I'll catch you for another video soon.